All right, that's good enough for me. So, all right, well, hello everyone. I hope you're having a great week so far and a great day. Um, Hopefully you've noticed, but I have a new webcam, so I'm just using that today. Kind of playing with the lighting a little bit to see if we can see me a little bit better because the previous webcams were really crappy, and hopefully this has a little bit better of sound quality. Um, I'll eventually be moving towards a more permanent solution for the lighting, but for now this is seems to be pretty good for me. All right. So as of right now, the Q&A section is turned on the Hangout. It's on the right-hand side. Please note there is a delay between when you type your question and when I see it. So far, there's only been one submitted question. So I'll check for any questions being asked after I get through the question that's been asked so far, and then we'll go from there. So this technically was not asked as a Hangout question. This came up in discussion, and I thought that this would be perfect to kind of discuss. Um, so here we go. The question being asked was, how do you deal with loved ones and their reactions to your diet plan? My significant other is wonderful and supportive, but he also likes to give me one of those sneaky, what are you doing type of glares when I eat anything with sugar because he knows I'm trying to kick sugar. So I feel bad, feel like I have to explain myself when really sometimes sugar just can't be avoided or I don't want to avoid it. And in parentheses, yes, I put syrup on my delicious 2 pancakes. If I resort to not eating around him, it'll be no different than when I would sneak food as a kid and sadly as an adult, so no one will judge me. This is a great question, so thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for being okay with me kind of porting the answer over to the Hangout, even though I kind of gave you an answer already. I know that look because I admittedly have given my wife that same look before. Um, we were joking about that earlier, where she asked me if I was going to address the look, but I've given that look myself. But we're not going to get into that. So for those of you in the 12-week class, this is going to be relevant to your next upcoming assignment. So you'll have some homework kind of related to this. To everyone else that's watching, even if you've heard the answer before, I think it's still valuable information, and maybe you'll find some additional insight that you haven't thought of before. So to answer the question, how do you deal with loved ones and their reactions to what we are doing, first requires us to answer the question, what exactly are we doing? What are the basics and why? So in the end, what we're doing is rather simple, but it's not easy. This approach to losing weight and keeping it off isn't a diet at all. It's a systematic way of eating based on the most recent scientific research that we have about ways to lose weight and to keep it off. It's not my approach as far as the mechanics, but the habits are ones I've personally used to maintain my own weight loss. But the underlying mechanics are, again, based on the science. And we'll get into that in a second. So even with that science, the truth is that due to fad diets that you see from the mainstream fitness industry, very few people that try to lose weight actually do so. And if they do, they're unlikely to keep it off. So those of us that have lost a significant amount of weight and kept it off, we are outliers statistically. So what are those of us that have done it, what are we doing differently than those that are continuously stuck in the fad diet cycle where you lose weight doing a fad diet and then you gain it back? So you may have heard the saying, success leaves clues. I like that saying, but I'd like to add to it. Success leaves clues, but failure leaves action items. So what are the clues and action items that have been learned from the science and from the anecdotal evidence from those of us that have lost so much weight and kept it off, boiled down to something simple that you could explain to someone else? The answer is that what all of you are doing now toward your weight loss goals, that's the answer. So to reiterate what those are, we are eating at a slight calorie deficit to promote fat loss. We are choosing food that is mostly whole food, like plants and protein sources. This is done to both manage hunger in the short term and long term. We are managing our sleep, our thirst, and our cravings, because all of these affect both our hunger and adherence in the short term and long term. We are counting calories and measuring our food, not as a means to an end, but because in general, we've lost a sense of what appropriate portions are through no fault of our own. Calorie counting, again, is a means to an end. It's not the end goal. This allows us to create new habits around food so that we can choose portions automatically that align with our goals while ensuring that we get enough nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and we feel full. The food industry and marketing have kind of bombarded us with these gigantic portions from restaurants that are hyper palatable. What hyper palatable means is that food scientists have engineered these foods to combine salt, fat, and sugar in the perfect amounts that we lose the ability to tell when we're full. So you can keep eating them and keep eating them, and they're incredibly calorically dense. I think an example of that was if you go to like Applebee's and order the salad with dressing, you could be eating 1,500 to 1,700 calories in a salad. That's ridiculous. I'd rather eat. I mean, that's like a whole pizza. I'd rather eat a whole pizza than a 1,700 calorie salad from Applebee's. I'm sure most of you would too. As with most things, the middle ground is preferable. We eat a couple slices of pizza and a salad that's not 1,700 calories. But I digress. I'm kind of getting off track here. We're also being flexible enough with our approach that we can make more healthful food choices, but no one food is off limits. If you start labeling foods as good and bad, we as humans instinctively crave those foods that are marked as bad because we are not allowed to have them. To give you an example of that, that's a little bit related, is that my daughter had a peanut allergy, and that meant all peanut products were eliminated from our house. The very second we eliminated all peanut products from our house, I suffered horrible peanut butter cravings, and I had to deal with that for 2 or 3 years until she was cleared of the peanut allergy. So that's an example of if you mark a food as bad, you're going to want it. Just basically, it's going to happen automatically, and there's not much you can do about it. So we're being flexible enough that no foods are technically off limits. We're not looking to remove foods from the choices we have. We're looking to add foods that add to our quality of life. So we are finding exercise that meets one of 2 criteria. One, it has to be something that we enjoy doing so that it doesn't feel like a chore. Exercise we hate is cardio. If you love riding your bike, go out and do it as often as you like. It's not cardio, it's not exercise. It's simply enjoying something that happens to be physical activity, and it's good for your long-term health and well-being. 2, the exercise has to provide an incredible benefit for the minimum time invested. So if it's not something you love, it instead has to provide all these benefits without taking up much time. So that generally means resistance-based exercise like weightlifting. It provides incredible benefits. It preserves muscle mass when you're losing weight, so to make sure that you're losing fat and not muscle. It reshapes your body so that when you lose weight, you don't just look like a smaller version of what you look like now, so that you look like you've actually lost fat. It builds confidence. It has a clear path of progression, session to session, week to week, over a long period of time as well. And for most people, you can get all of those benefits in as little as 2 hours a week. So with all that said, back to the main question, there may actually be good reason to not tell everyone what you're doing at all. Not let anyone know that you're trying to lose weight, not let them know anything at all. In my own situation, when I was starting out at 400 pounds, I did not immediately announce to the world, other than to my wife, what I was doing. I'd read something at the time that announcing your goal to everyone in the world actually robs your goal of its power. Those people around you start to react as if you've already achieved it, and then you get a sense of satisfaction and pride, but you actually haven't done anything yet. So why would you if you're already getting some of the benefit from it? I looked into this more, and there were some studies that showed this to be the case. And I was kind of doing some research because I really feared failure, and I wanted to do anything that I could to not fail, because I was working against the clock here. My daughter was being born in 9 months, and I was over 400 pounds. So I was kind of working against a timetable. So I did everything I could to ensure that I succeeded. By not telling anyone your goals initially, you're ensuring that you're doing this for yourself, which is incredibly important. You cannot go on this journey and try to be healthier and fit unless you're doing it for yourself. So that makes sure that you're not just doing it for other people, that you're pressured into it, that you're doing it to have something to talk about. That eliminates this, where you're doing it for yourself. By doing so, you also avoid running the risk of letting anyone else's opinions get in your way or change your mind. So for example, let's just say that you told someone what you're doing, you're eating more vegetables and eating lean protein sources, counting calories, making more healthful choices. Every single person's going to give you their opinion on that. You're going to be bombarded with it. A lot of those opinions are going to be entirely conflicted. A lot of the fad diets are like religions in that people have picked which one they believe in the most, and they will fight over it. So you have people that say low carb is the best way, the only way. If you don't do low carb, you're a moron. You have people say that paleo is the only way, that vegan's the only way. None of that's true. It's really outside of any ethical issues you have towards a specific dietary choice. It's really what works for you personally. So when you're bombarded with all of those, many of those opinions are going to run contrary to the actual evidence we have from science. And partially that's the case with people like Dr. Oz, that's who people get their information from, even if it's wrong. So this could kind of sway you away from the truth, where the truth being what actually works, shown by science, rather than being a fad diet. One other thing to consider is that some people in your life might actually fear that by you making these changes to your life, that they're not going to be a part of it anymore, that they're going to have a reduced part of your life because you have to take time away for this journey for yourself. They might think that when you're changing over the course of this, that you're going to be a different person at the end. And that's going to change the dynamic of your relationship. Those are all real fears that people fear when someone's going through a change in their life. And this could possibly cause them to subconsciously want to derail your efforts and make you fail because they're afraid that things are going to change between you. So those are some really good reasons to keep it to yourself as long as possible, to kind of push all of that away. So keeping it a secret makes you want to share the secret so badly, just by virtue of being a secret, that you're going to commit to getting it done. And doing something secret for yourself just feels really good. This is also something, the doing something for yourself thing, that most people, especially moms, have trouble doing for themselves. You know, my wife, my mom, two moms that I'm very close with, they cannot do something for themselves without feeling guilty. So that's very common to feel that way. So if people are aware of what you're doing, you're more likely to feel guilt over doing something that's selfish for yourself. Even though my philosophy is, if you take better care of yourself and put yourself first, the other things you have to do, you're able to do them better. So if you take care of yourself and put your health first, being a mom, you can take care of your kids better and your family better. Same with being a father. It's the same thing. And that's how I view it. So if you're keeping things a secret, you can still rely on a community of people going through the same thing. In this case, Photocracy, or any other forums that you're a part of or groups you're a part of that are going through the same thing, but your really only social connection to them at this point is because you're on the same path. You're almost anonymous to them. Most people go with an anonymous name on Photocracy. I used to have an anonymous name on Photocracy, but I've changed it to my actual name once I became a coach. But that connection to the community kind of pushes you in the direction of your goals, because you can share with them, but it's not violating the other things I talked about as far as it still being a secret to the people that you're close to in person. With that said, obviously you can't keep it entirely a secret forever, because eating is a social part of our culture. That means eventually you are going to have to talk about it. You know, at work, people are going to possibly question what you're eating because people love to be in each other's business. So how do we connect the simplicity but difficulty in what we're doing? How do we explain that, what I've just mentioned, to others? That's going to depend on the person, why they're asking or interfering, and your relationship with them. So you being the person listening, you're going to know the best course to get them to understand. These are people in your life, you know them best. So depending on the personality type, their level of education as far as fitness goes, where they're coming from is important. Meaning if it's someone that's never been overweight in their life, never struggled with that, they're not coming from a place of understanding. They just don't understand why people that are overweight can't just eat less. And if they haven't been overweight themselves, like I have been, or everyone I assume has been that's listening, they just don't, they can't ever understand that. So you have to kind of approach it from that angle. Or it could be that they are someone that struggled with their weight and they're overweight and they're feeling like they've failed. And again, it could be that they are scared to see you succeed where they've failed. It kind of makes their own issues, they have to kind of deal with them, because by you seeing success, you're kind of rubbing it in their face, even though that's not your intention. So there's a lot of things going on depending on who the person is, what their personality is like, what your relationship is to them, as well as where they're coming from, their situation, and how they would possibly feel about what you're going through. That's a lot to consider. So there's not really one answer of this is what you say to this person. It really depends on all those things. But some things you can do are you could show them this video. You could explain to them the purpose of working with a coach. You could tell them what your goals are. Most people are going to put their nose into your business because they're genuinely curious out of a place of concern. One thing you may notice is that no matter how much you explain what's going on, like, I'm making a choice to avoid X food for Y reason because it doesn't fit my goals. There are people that will simply continue to ask no matter what. My office has pretty much donuts, bagels, pizza, Chipotle, whatever, like every day. I could potentially eat every single meal at work and never have to pay a dime for it. And I'll eat there occasionally. I'll make it fit, but it's not something I do every day because I'm a creature of habit. It's easier for me to kind of eat the same things every day and have the freedom where if I'm going to eat something that doesn't particularly fit my goals, I'm not going to stress about it, but I'd honestly rather do it with my family than my coworkers. No offense, coworkers, if you're listening. So in those cases, it's a social norm, meaning if there are free bagels, you offer everyone a bagel. Even if they've told you 10,000 times, I prefer to not eat bagels right now. It doesn't fit my goals and makes me hungrier instead of filling me up. Some people just conform to the fact that it's socially polite to ask you, and they're going to ask you forever, no matter what type of explaining you do to them. They're simply going to ask because it's a reaction. They're not thinking about it. So that's something you just may have to accept. So if someone is staring at you for eating sugar, maybe they just don't understand that you could be losing weight and eating sugar, because the aforementioned mainstream fitness industry wants you to think that sugar is the devil. You can't eat it ever. And if you eat it, you won't lose weight regardless of calories, because that's not true. You can eat sugar and you can have candy and ice cream and you can still lose weight. But the mainstream fitness industry makes their money off of quick fixes and fad diets. And that's contrary to that information. So like I said, you may be dealing with people that they only have nutritional information from TV. That's wrong. And you're doing something that's contrary to what they heard on TV. Therefore, they're concerned that you're doing something wrong also. So it's out of a genuine concern, but from a place of ignorance. In that case, it again depends on the person and your relationship to them. You can explain to them that they may not be operating on the most up-to-date scientific information, but at the same time, they may consider their source, like Dr. Oz, an authority figure. That how could he be wrong? He has the name. He's a doctor. How could he be wrong? No, they wouldn't let him give out wrong information. So it's really just depends on the person and the situation exactly. So another situation is maybe you're making progress and they see that and they're either consciously or subconsciously realizing that they should do something more themselves to be healthier. And they don't know how to deal with those feelings. So they're going to lash out with negative criticism. And like I said, the best thing you can do is to be kind, because you don't know if they're doing that subconsciously or consciously. It could just be because they're upset over it and they just don't know how to deal with those feelings, because there's really not too many built-in support systems for people trying to lose weight, even though we're facing an obesity epidemic. There's really, mainstream society kind of shuns you for being overweight, but at the same time doesn't exactly help. Everything in our environment is situated to make it easier to gain weight. So again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. It really depends on the specific situation, but I think that was some good examples to kind of help you there. What really boils down to is that what we're doing is pretty simple, and it works, and it's based on science, and it's intended to be flexible, and it's not a diet. It's not something that's a plan or a fad diet that just ends at a certain time. It's just a systematic way of eating that kind of gets you to your goals, doesn't leave you feeling deprived. So your choice is based on the person that I'm talking to. Do I feel confident enough to be able to explain that, or do I just try to find a way around the situation and go about my day and do what's best for me and be selfish about it? And I'm saying selfish in a good way, meaning, yes, it's annoying to deal with people sometimes that just don't understand, but it's for a good reason that you're doing it. It's for yourself, for your health, for your well-being. So that was my long-winded answer. I hope that helped someone and made sense. I believe that answered the question. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over and see if there are any questions being asked on the Hangout, and drink some water here. Okay, we have a question being asked. This question is from Ed. Ed says, Chuck, as we make progress and continue to lose weight, do you adjust our nutrition and exercise goals to work with the weight loss? The short answer is yes. The long answer is only when we have to. So the way your metabolism works, a real simple explanation is, as you lose weight, the calories you burn decrease over time, just being alive, meaning as you take in fewer calories to burn weight, your metabolism becomes more efficient, and it's going to take more of a calorie deficit in general to burn the weight. So my philosophy is that I only make an adjustment when it's absolutely necessary. So if your weight loss has stalled and there's no change in your measurements, then I would make a minor adjustment, and I wouldn't be drastic. I may do like 100 calories, 200 calories, just to get things moving again. But you don't want to like be adjusting all the time, because weight loss on the scale is never linear. It's not going to be a straight line down. It's going to be a line like this, up and down, up and down, up and down. What you want to look at is kind of like the average over time. So it's really about making the adjustment at the right time. So I will make adjustments as necessary if you need them, but only when what you're doing stops working. And in general, I'm going to try to squeeze out every last little bit of progress out of your current goals, and just evaluate when we need to make that adjustment to keep things moving. As far as exercise, I'm not going to proactively adjust your exercise unless you give me specific feedback letting me know that it needs to be done. So if I'd ask that you keep on with your exercise plans, but you let me know when you feel an adjustment is needed. I'll take a look at your progress and make that adjustment if need be, or I may say, let's just keep going here and see if we can make some additional improvements in that regard. All right, let's take a look here. I'm going to give it a few moments and see if any more questions pop in, and then we'll go from there. And if you notice with the camera, anytime I alt tab, it gets brighter because when I alt tab to a white background screen, there's more light on my face. So camera's kind of adjusting as I alt between things. All right, I think that covers all the questions that were submitted so far. Next week, I am likely going to do the Hangout on Monday night. It's my brother's birthday on Wednesday, and we're going to be going out, so I wouldn't be home in time. So I'll post the link to the Hangout on Sunday. You'll be able to check when that's going to be, and then you can ask questions then. Or if you have questions you'd like to see asked on the Hangout next time, you're more than welcome to send me a message and just say, hey, I'd like this answered on the next Hangout. Or, as always, please ask me any questions you have, and I'll be more than happy to answer them right away. All right, well, thank you for watching, and everyone have a great night, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.